Welcome to this presentation on non-specialist papers A and B of the EQE, that is the qualifying exam for European patent attorneys. This presentation sets out ideas on the new exam format from 2017. Here's the background. From 2017, there will be a single paper A and a single paper B with subject matter accessible to all candidates. In other words, there will no longer be separate papers A and B, electrical, mechanical, and chemical. Mock papers A and B have been published, as well as prototype examiners' reports that you can obtain from the EPO website. The European Patent Academy has published a video presented in question and answer style, and that aims to answer all of the questions you may have on the new format. The new format is promoted as fairer because everyone will sit the same exam. Actually, the main driving force for the change was financial, to reduce the costs of running the EQE. Although the change was cost-driven, it nevertheless offers advantages for candidates, and in my opinion, it will be fairer for candidates. Also, it will be fairer for those who set the papers, as it will eliminate the difficult task of having to try and make equally difficult and equally fair separate mechanical and chemical subjects. However, differences between the former specialist mechanical approach and the former specialist chemical approach need to be addressed, and in my opinion, it's best not to concentrate on the differences, but on the commonalities. Let's go back to basics. Here's what you have to do. First, systematically and thoroughly follow your client's general and specific instructions. Second, focus on complying with the EPC and the guidelines. Third, make maximum use of the information provided by the client. If you do all of this, in other words, if you implement your client's instructions in a legally acceptable way, you should pass the exam, which obviously is what you want to do. In my opinion, it's not a good idea to focus on trying to aim for just getting marks. You should not pay attention, not pay too much attention to tricks for gaining a point here or there, for the very simple reason that you don't have the examiner's report during the exam and you don't know how the marks will be allocated. The examiner's reports contain detailed marking schedules for previous exams, and this is mainly for or to show ex post facto a consistent and logical marking scheme fair to all candidates, and is of limited use for preparing future exams. So make use of the examiner's reports after they issue, that is after the exam, to assess whether you have passed or failed the exam, whether or not you have passed or failed the exam, how you could or should have improved your work. For the time being, in preparing for next year's exam, concentrate on producing a logical output that will please your client and the EPO. If you do this, you'll pass the exam. The technical subject matter of the new format is designed to be accessible and understood by one and all, and this has been illustrated by referring to past opposition papers, which always had one technical subject matter, and which always contained a mix of technical subject matter accessible to all European patent attorneys. So it is possible to set exams with a single subject matter. All specialized technical terms, chemical names, and so on, are in principle explained and understood or understandable in their context. In my opinion, different approaches as to how you should tackle the job come not so much from different technical subject matter, but from different ways the client may express his instructions. In particular, the way the client expresses the hierarchy of the more or less essential features and effects. We now turn to independent claims. Multiple independent claims have regularly featured in chemistry papers and have occasionally featured in mechanical papers. Some inventions have different aspects that need separate coverage, and which varies from invention to invention and from paper to paper, and of course may also vary in future non-specialist papers. In any event, the client will give clear instructions or clear indications if multiple independent claims are needed to cover different aspects, or if you can obtain all protection in a single independent claim. In paper B, if there are multiple independent claims, you have to argue for patentability of each of them, but be careful with pseudo-independent cross-reference claims that I will refer to later. We now turn to the concept of maximum protection in paper A. According to the client's general instructions, candidates are expected to draft an independent claim or claims which offer or offers the broadest possible protection under the EPC covering the client's interests. This was implemented differently in former specialized mechanical and chemical papers. In former mechanical papers, the examiner's ideal claim was stripped of all essential and inherent features and was therefore unsafe. The examiner's ideal claim was like being on the top tip of the Cervin or Matterhorn mountain, where any small deviation and you would come tumbling down. In former chemical papers, the client encouraged limitations substantiated by various effects. Such claim was relatively stable and safe. I would guess that in the future, it's more likely that you will have a main claim with some concessions on scope as a function of the client's statements, so you will be able to work in relative safety. We'll have to wait and see. I now turn to inadmissible extension of subject matter in paper B. It has been a standard situation that the client proposed unallowable amendments under Article 1232. You have to deal with this and argue why your amendments are allowable. It's likely that henceforth the unallowable amendments will include situations from the chemical case law. Therefore, non-chemists should do some homework here, but in fact this is business as usual because all candidates need to know all configurations leading to inadmissible added subject matter, which is an important issue in the EPO practice. However, chemical candidates may need to do more homework. Inventive step for paper B candidates capture or lose major credit on inventive step arguments. You have to argue for inventive step of each truly independent claim using the problem and solution approach. This was typical in former chemistry papers. For example, a cross-reference claim reading I now turn to inventive step for paper B, where candidates capture or lose major credit on inventive step arguments. You have to argue for the inventive step of each truly independent claim using the problem and solution approach. This was typical for chemistry papers, former chemistry papers. For pseudo-independent cross-reference claims that include all of the technical features of a preceding main claim, you can present a simplified argument. For example, a cross-reference independent claim reading process for the manufacture of the product of claim 1 is considered by the EPO to be a dependent claim for the purpose of assessing patentability. If the product is patentable, the process will inherit its patentability. This was the case for some former mechanical and chemistry papers. On the other hand, a cross-referenced independent claim reading, apparatus for carrying out the method of claim 1, is considered by the EPO to be a true independent claim, and you have to argue separately for the patentability of the apparatus. All of this comes into consideration if paper B has several independent claims. The Academy's video asked 3 questions. The first question they asked is, what can EQE candidates expect from this new format? Here is my attempted answer. Candidates can expect a fair test of their drafting and argumentability, a fair test of their ability to service a client's needs, a fair test of their knowledge on patentability, a fair test on their ability to comply with official requirements, a fair test of their ability to handle technical subject matter within the realm of European patent attorneys, and lastly, candidates can expect equal treatment because they all take the same exam. The old format, in my opinion, provided only a limited or different tests of drafting and argumentability in the context of specialist information, electrical, mechanical, or chemical. The old format did not provide equal fairness between mechanical and chemical candidates because they were tested differently. A second Academy question was, how should preparation for the EQE be fine-tuned in view of the new format? In my opinion, there is no particular need to fine-tune your preparation in view of the non-specialized format. You should continue your preparations using the mock papers and old papers. Additionally, mechanical candidates may want to take a look at some old chemistry papers and vice versa, which in any event will be good for your development. Lastly, as added subject matter is important in paper B, make an extra effort to study the case law principles. That is for all technical fields. The third Academy question was, What insights can be gained from the mock papers? In my view, it's business as usual. You should do the mock A and B papers just like any past papers and learn and develop as you go along. You get insights from each and every past paper or mock paper you do. The following specific points come to mind. From mock A, we see the chemical way of coming to the correct claim scope. Key limitations were based on the client's statements, which were mainly for advantages or effects. Also from mock A, we see there are several independent claims based upon client statements, which was usual in chemistry and different from a typical mechanical paper with only one main independent claim. You can expect in the new paper to draft one or several independent claims, so you have to be prepared for both possibilities depending upon the presented invention. Lastly, from mock B, we see that added subject matter with a chemical flavor was presented, which perhaps we can expect for the upcoming real exams in the new format. Here then, in summary, is what you should do. Do the job the client asks you to do, which is to draft an introduction and claims, or reply to a communication with arguments, always based on the information the client provides. Pay great attention to all of the client's wishes and instructions set out in his letter and, for paper B, set out in his patent application. Everything you do must comply with the EPC and the guidelines because your client instructs you that this is what he wants you to do. The way to pass the exam is to implement the instructions adequately, because you are tested on your ability to represent a notional client while complying with all official requirements. All of the above is the same for the old and the new exam format, but with the new format, the client's specific instructions regarding his invention are likely to diverge from what you may have been used to for the old mechanical and chemistry papers. This applies also to tutors who are impregnated with the old specialist papers, but of course, for new candidates who are not used to doing many past papers, practically no adjustment is needed. Here are some further resources that may be useful for your exam preparations. The first three are on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and key in the title, Approaching the EQE, or Drafting EQE Paper A, or Reply EQE Paper B. Approaching the EQE is a series covering different preliminary aspects. For A and B papers, you may in particular want to go to the presentations serving your client and presenting arguments. The last two YouTubes are three-part tutorials on past papers. Then there are two books. Drafting an Amendment of European Patents is a 2-volume book that contains plenty of comparisons with the EQE. It will be a reference work for you over the next few years. Lastly, EQE Comprehensive is a comprehensive analysis for EQE preparation. You can purchase both books from www.shopmybooks.com. Key in patent in the small box at the top right. This brings an end to my presentation on the non-specialist A and B papers of the EQE new format from 2017. I hope it has been of use to you. I trust your exam preparations will be fruitful and I wish you good luck for the exam itself. Good luck.